me, Sha'Meca Oliver, the host of the Building the Best You Show and also your root coach. It is 2018, and let me tell you, you guys, there are amazing things that's going on, and I'm already exhausted and overwhelmed with all the blessings that God has bestowed upon me and those who are connected to me. But neither here nor there, we are about to have an amazing show on today, so I hope that you are ready. So begin to share, because on today's show, we're going to talk about things that people don't want to talk about. I mean, sometimes you can be next to your girlfriend, your mom, your spouse, your friend, your coworker, and they won't tell you if they're depressed or dealing with anxiety or dealing with mental frustration, if they're dealing with problems that feels like it's weighing them down. And we carry this thing. Now, remember before we talked about suffering in silence. So if you're on the show today, we are not going to suffer in silence anymore. We're going to talk about things that's going to help you to get your breakthrough. And as you know, I am next to a beautiful woman, an amazing woman who you guys are going to get to know also. Her name is Kristin Mitchell. Welcome to the show, Kristin.
Thank you for having me.
Let me give you a little hug from over here. I'm so excited that you are here today, because I too have went through some things that you have experienced. And let me tell you, it's not easy.
Not at all.
It's not easy. And sometimes you don't know to even talk to someone about that. But you know, you guys, Kristin is on the show today because she's going to do exactly what this show was created to do, was to share her journey of trials and triumphs to help the next woman to be healed. Y'all hear that word? Healed and successful. Are you excited?
I'm absolutely excited.
I'm excited.
And I'm so glad that you have me.
Thank you. And we're gonna talk like girlfriends on here. We're gonna talk about real stuff.
That's how I like to talk.
That's how we're gonna talk, because somebody needs to be set free. Somebody needs to be delivered, and somebody needs to know that they are not alone.
Absolutely.
A lot of times we feel like we're alone because nobody's talking about it.
Right.
So today we're gonna talk about mind, body, and soul, but also how, with all of that, how to get restored, renewed, and revived, so that you can keep moving forward, right? Right? So, Kristin, let's talk about this. I want you to tell everybody out there who you are, what you do, what you stand for, and just your why.
Okay, great. So, hi guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm really happy to be here and have this conversation with you guys. For me, you know, I like to pride myself as being an educator first and foremost. That's how I was formally trained. I went to school for education. I was a classroom teacher for several years, and so that's at my core.
Yes.
And, you know, I was telling a friend earlier how life has a way of really kind of putting you on a path that you did not anticipate being on through different experiences and things of that nature. And so that's what happened to me. I went through some things that really shook me at my core.
Yeah.
And that kind of helped to define the next chapter in my life. And so I was talking to a girlfriend once, and I said, you know, I'm a little confused. I thought that God's purpose for my life was to be a teacher, you know, in the classroom and to teach children and to help them grow. I said, but now I'm in the space where I want to work with women. I want to help women to overcome some of the same obstacles that I've overcome. Because I do think that God is purposeful, and I do think that we don't go through things for ourselves. I think that we go through things in order to help other people.
Right.
So she said to me, you know, Kristin, you are still teaching. She said, working with women, teaching them how you overcame depression and teaching them how you were able to grow through some things is still a form of teaching. And so I say all of that to say that while I'm formally trained as an educator, I have definitely embarked upon a new journey of, you know, self-discovery, working with women to help them discover their best selves as well. And so I'm really passionate about that. And I've done a lot of good work around that topic. So
yes, that is so awesome. And I definitely want to talk about even in more depth about those obstacles.
Absolutely.
But I want to hit this, I want to talk about this first. It's 2018.
Yes.
We are in the beginning part of the year. And a lot of individuals have set resolutions and goals and things like that. They're looking out and looking at everybody else and what they're doing. And I think that we all want to be successful. But when we can't obtain, you know, the success that somebody else has, then we get down. We get crushed. We feel like we're not worthy. And those things end up leading into, like, depression. And I want to encourage someone as you continue to, you know, be on the show with us on today, and as Kristin continues to share her story of trials and triumphs, that there is a point in your life where you're just like, you know what, I'm okay, it's okay, and I'm still going to be successful. You know, this is the time where it's like, how am I going to reach those goals? How will I accomplish them? I don't have the resources or things like that. But I want to let you know that today is a day that this is a resource for you, and you're going to go to that next level, and we're going to break the chains of depression off of you on today and believe God for that, right? So let's talk about that obstacle for you. Like, how did you get to the place of being depressed? What do you feel like that caused it?
So one thing that I like to share, not just with women, but with people in general, is when you talk about depression, it's obviously a very sensitive subject for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit,
Sure.
give you a little bit of my story, and then kind of tell you where I am now, the space that I'm in, and what my thoughts are in regards to depression.
Okay.
So first and foremost, I take the word depression very seriously. I think people throw it around very loosely. And so one thing I learned is that it's okay to be sad.
Yes.
It's okay to be down. You know, different life circumstances have a way of bringing out different types of emotion, right? And so something happens to a family member.
Yes.
You will experience some level of grief. You will experience some level of sadness. What I've learned is that there are different degrees of sadness.
Yes.
Right? Depression is very different from being extremely sad.
Exactly.
You know, it's a much deeper meaning behind being depressed. And so that's the first thing I want to kind of share with you guys out there. You know, just because you're sad or you're down, or, you know, you lost your job, you know, you've lost a relationship, certainly you're experiencing some form of loss and grief, but that does not necessarily mean that you're depressed.
Exactly.
And so that's the very first thing for me when it came to depression. I talk about this in my book very much so in detail. He Wasn't My Daddy. And the book has a play on words as far as the title is concerned. I'm not talking about my biological father per se in the title.
Right.
I'm talking about a relationship.
Exactly.
You know, and so that relationship, the guy was about 17 years my senior, and I looked to him to be a father figure, but I didn't realize I was looking to him to be that for me.
Right.
And so what wound up happening was I put him on this pedestal, much like we do our fathers, our biological fathers, right? And in putting him on this pedestal, when our relationship dissolved, I felt an extreme sense of abandonment. I felt, you know, very much so let down.
Yeah.
And I held him to expectations that he didn't even know I was holding him to. And so during that time, my grief looked very different. And what I realized is that I was triggered in ways that I did not anticipate being triggered in. And so it kind of took on a life of its own. I became clinically depressed, and I was diagnosed with severe depressive disorder, anxiety disorder. And so there were a lot of things going on.
Let's talk about that, right? Let's stop right there.
Yeah,
What's
sure.
clinically depressed?
So, you know, I saw various psychiatrists and went to, you know, have conversations with them, and that was the diagnosis that they gave me. You know, certain things you can look for are, you know, variances in your mood, a very kind of down affect, you know, wasn't able to really go to work. I wasn't really able to function and go about my day-to-day routine. So again, you can be sad and go to work.
Exactly.
Do you understand what I'm saying? You can be sad and you know, you can have an off day, but it's different when your complete routine is shifted and you're unable to carry on with your daily functions. You know, you experience things like weight gain or weight loss.
Right.
I gained a lot of weight during that time because I would eat and eat and eat and
For
eat.
a comfort.
For a comfort.
For a comfort.
Absolutely. You know, you wind up doing things that, you know, later on when you come out of that space, you may not be so proud of. So I was very promiscuous at that point, and I talk about that in my book as well. You know, I was very suicidal. I was on suicide watch for a period of time. And so there are different things that come along with depression that look very different than your typical sadness. There were days I would sit in my bathroom on the floor and rock back and forth. I was very numb. I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia. So, you know, of course, when you go to the doctor and you talk through what some of the symptoms are, you know, they will at some point diagnose you with what they believe you have. And so, you know, that was my road. In addition to that, there are some people who have certain chemical imbalances.
Right.
You know, and so I went through a lot of therapy, a lot of talk therapy. I did a lot of visits with the psychiatrist. And at one point, I had a medicine bag that was about this tall and about this wide.
I like something that you said. Not necessarily like something that you said, but there was a key to what you said, is that pretty much what was going on, they were taking care of the symptoms.
Yes.
It was the symptoms.
I had to do the healing.
Right.
And so I'm going to talk about that because that's important. And so there was a period of time where, you know, I was very suicidal. I attempted suicide a couple of times.
Right.
I found myself in about 4 different psychiatric wards. And I talk about all of these things in my book because there are so many people who are going through these things.
Yes.
And like you said, they suffer in silence. And I was in this space for a good 5 to 6 years. And so I was extremely miserable. So it took a long time for me to get to a place where I was a lot healthier. And so no matter how many psychiatry appointments I went to, no matter how many psych wards I visited, I had to do the work. And so I had to learn how to help myself. And so that's something that I like to share with other women.
How did you get to the place? Because a lot of women are going through the depression part. And when you're in depression, I remember being depressed at 14. I remember going through depression when I got into high school. You don't really understand it. You're just there. And for me, it looked like there was a cloud.
It was.
It was a cloud. Literally, I would look out at people and it would look
can't
blurry.
see anything.
You can't really see anything. I would look at the television and I couldn't even focus. I didn't have a focal point. I didn't know what to look at anymore. And it wasn't like it was something that I felt I caused on I'm 14 at the time, 13, 14 at the time, you know, and get into high school and can't even walk through the doors. And my mom understood it because she struggled with some things, you know, as being young. So she was like, okay, I will call home, and Ma didn't go to school. She's like, okay. You know, she gave me time to go through it and kind of heal, but we have individuals who's there and they can't see that. What was your point with feeling all of that? Because that's hard to break. Depression is hard to break. What got you to the point that it began to break off, not necessarily break totally off, but you said, you know what, I need to start working on me.
So let me kind of, I'm gonna go back again.
Right.
So my ex and I, we break up.
Right.
I fall into this deep, deep, dark hole. And so the very first time I wound up in the psych ward, I was actually at Southern Maryland Hospital, which is here in the DMV, in Southern Maryland. And I leave there, I'm on all this medicine. And so I remember not really being able to comprehend because the medicine was, you know, psychotropic drugs. And so it slows you down. Exactly. You know, so that you can't necessarily feel the way that you would feel if you weren't on that medication. But what it did for me, it slowed me down too much. So I could barely read and comprehend. You know, I couldn't remember how to get from point A to point B. You know, these are places that I've gone to for years. And so my mom took me off of those medications, and, you know, we kind of kept going with the therapy and things like that. And it just was a cycle. So I might feel better for a small amount of time, and then something else would happen, and I would find myself back in the hospital. And so I think I told you earlier, I had been to about 4 different psych wards. So my last psych ward, it was so bad that when I got there, they secluded me. I was really, really suicidal. And while I was there, I did a lot of journaling. And before I left, at this point, this was like year 5 of this, right? So this was not an overnight thing. This was a process. This was a lot of praying. This was a lot of people praying for me. This was a lot of missing time off of work. This was a lot of not having any leave left because I had taken so much time off of work, and I'm now missing money on my checks, and I'm like, you got a mortgage to pay. You know what I mean? It was that sort of a thing. So at this point, you know, I'm journaling and I'm praying and I'm journaling and I'm praying. And I wrote in my journal, and I think I'm going to reach for the book because I wrote it in the book. Most of my book comes from my journal. And I want to share this with you guys because this was really powerful for me. And forgive me as I flip through. But I was journaling and I was trying to figure out why the ending of this relationship had me so devastated. And what I realized was while I was writing, I kind of answered my own question. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
And that was the start of my actual ability to begin to heal.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to read for you guys what it is, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And I hope that this resonates with someone because it definitely resonated with me. And again, when I left that psych ward, I said to myself, Kristin, you gotta get it together, because I had been again in this space for a long time, and I felt like it was time for me to heal. And I think that through my journaling, I was able to start to discover the source of some of my issues.
Exactly. You got to get to the
And
root.
I had to get to the, so here's what I had. I said, subconsciously I longed for a father, never knowing I was longing for a father. I was his baby. He took me under his wing and protected me. He was never supposed to hurt me or lie to me. I had high expectations of him. He was supposed to be my daddy, my family, the one man in my life that would love and protect me forever. He was supposed to cherish me and put me first. I trusted him completely, giving him my all and removing all barriers surrounding my heart, because he said he would never hurt or forsake me. Daddies don't do that to their little girls. However, there was just one problem. He wasn't my daddy. He was my man, and without realizing it, his love was a substitution for the love I lacked from my father. He had taken on the role of my father. I had no idea the love, care, and protection I required and desired from him was based on what I had not received from my father. So, and I'll just kind of stop or, pause there, but that was really significant to me because, like you said, it got to the root of why that ending of the relationship affected me the way that it did. So it was far deeper than him. It was far deeper than that relationship.
So what was it? So was it a connection that you wanted with your biological father?
You know what? I think what wound up happening was, for me, I felt a sense of abandonment. You know, my dad, and I talk about this in the book, my dad left and went to prison when I was a kid. And he was gone for about 10 years. And so I never had that father figure. You know, I talk about my stepdad in the book, and at that time, he and my mother's relationship was really, really rocky. So I couldn't look to him to be a father figure either.
Right.
And so all I felt was this sense of aloneness.
Rejection.
And so when, my ex and I broke up, I felt that even more strong, and I think I felt it so strongly because I put so much into him. I made him my everything. I put him on this pedestal, and again, I gave him a role that wasn't his to have. And so when he left, I felt like, oh my God, I felt unloved. I felt rejected. I felt abandoned. I felt like a failure. I felt like no one would want me. And so all of these, what we call, cognitive distortions, and I talk about that a lot too in my workshops and in my conversations with women. All of these cognitive distortions started to rear their heads. And for those of you who are watching, in terms of what cognitive distortions are, I think it's a fancy way of just saying that, you have negative beliefs that aren't true, right? So I'm not attractive, and I'm not attractive because he doesn't want me. You know what I mean? Or I'm not capable of being loved because he didn't love me. And so
you start to believe.
You start to absolutely believe those things.
Because nobody is telling you anything differently.
But the reality is that this man left, so these things must be true.
So it must be
right?
true. You guys, this is her book right here. So where can they go to get the book?
You can go to my website, KristinLMitchell.com. You can go to BarnesandNoble.com. You can go to Amazon.com. So any, download it on your Kindle. Right. Any retailer that sells.
I just want to make sure that you guys have this so that you know where to get the book, because I believe that you're telling the story of a lot of young women, a lot of teenage women who need to know, that it's okay to love. It's okay, because when you're talking right here, it's like I hear what you're saying, and a lot of us as women, we suffer from that because we want love, and I think it's absolutely normal to want love, and to want love so deeply and so strongly, but we cannot forget to love ourselves.
And you know what? I think one of the beauties of a journey or a life cycle is that despite the fact that you may have gone through things and you may have come through those things, I look at my life as that I'm always a work in progress. So I've come extremely far. I've been able to do some amazing things, but I always feel like I have room to grow. And so one of the things you talked about earlier was New Year's resolutions and things like that. I don't necessarily believe in resolutions, New Year's resolutions, and I'll tell you why. It's because I believe that when you feel like it's time for you to make some changes, then you need to make those changes. I don't care if it's January 1st. I don't care if it's June 1st. I don't care if it's December 20th. But
you got to have a plan.
You do need to have a plan, and that plan can be implemented at any point. And so I think for me, that's why I don't. Some people say, I'm going to wait till January the 1st to do X, Y, and Z. Why? I'm going to wait till January 1st to, lose this weight or go back to the gym. Why? I'm going to wait till January 1st and I'm going to start my new job and I'm going to start my new life. Why? You know what I mean? And so I think it's important that we empower ourselves and we empower other women and men to be productive while they can and to do what it is that you need to do for yourself. What if it's July? You waiting until January 1st to start this new journey?
I think it's also about creating the mindset.
Yeah.
Like we have to create a mindset.
Absolutely.
I was just talking a little earlier on my prayer line, and just telling the people on the prayer line, I love to talk about real things because that's why we're praying, because we're going through, but we have to be able to talk about some things in order to know what to pray for and to have people to intercede for us for. But just really talking about, like, you got to make your mind up. You got to be ready. Faith is now. You have to know who you are. When you begin to know who you are and whose you are, we've heard that a lot of times, then it allowed you to know your worth. And I think that's what it is. The New Year's, when you say, hey, if it's July, you start in July. If it's January, you start in January. When you can be able to identify with your worth. I'm worth starting now. Yeah. I'm not worth starting later. I'm worth now. My health is important now. Absolutely. I might not make it to January if I don't take care of that health now. I might not get these goals taken. I might be behind competition. I got to get my stuff now. And
you made mention of something earlier that was important to me about people kind of feeling like they have to keep up with other people. And there's a lot of that. The pressure is on for a lot of us, you know. And I think the important part is to compete with yourself.
Let me give you 5 on that. Yes.
One thing my mom always says, she says, you never know what somebody had to go through to get what they have. Exactly. You never know what somebody had to go through to get where they are. And so it's really important that we check ourselves. And one of my best friends, she talks about this all the time, Kia. She always says, you cannot compare yourself, because comparing yourself to people or to other things really does birth a sense of inadequacy within yourself. And so for you guys who are listening and watching, I just want to encourage you guys to really, really think about kind of being your best self, competing with you, not competing with your neighbor or your friend or your family, because everybody has their own journey.
Yeah, and that's what the show is about. It's about building the best you.
Right. Now, your best you is different than your friend's best them.
Them. Exactly.
And so that's, I think we get caught up in that a lot of time, and it starts to affect our self-esteem as women. I don't look as good as her. Yeah. Or, my body not popping like her. Right, you know what I mean? And so we really get caught up in those things. And I have to check myself all the time.
You mentioned something earlier also. You talked about how depression is different from just being sad,
Girl,
you
yeah.
know, or not. And I think that it's the same thing when it comes of us taking self-care or even looking out. I was sitting in Panera Bread. I'm not, you know,
Are you a healthy? Are you a
marketing.
really healthy eater, or you just?
I am. You know what? I changed a lot. I took and so I know about this all so well as not looking out at other people and trying to be them. People say, Sha'Meca, you're skinny. You don't have to work out. I do, because my cardiovascular system needs it. My
Okay.
heart has to pump my blood.
Yeah.
And so and then when I feel my body not feeling healthy, I'm like, I can't
You're
eat
off,
that.
right?
I'm off.
Yeah.
I don't feel good. I feel like depression is coming on, so I know when there is an imbalance going on in my body, so I have to pay attention to myself.
And I'm sorry, one of the things while you're there, one of the
Yeah.
things that I did do in terms of, you said, what did I do to kind of get back on track, to kind of
Exactly.
get out of that depression? So like I said, I went to a lot of talk therapy.
Right.
At one point, I went to individual therapy once a week. I went to group therapy once a week. And I went to Johns Hopkins to see the psychiatrist once every 2 weeks. So I was in therapy all the time. I also started working out and eating well, but I couldn't do that right away. I had friends that would try to encourage me to do that, but I was in such a bad place that I couldn't.
That you couldn't.
Over time,
Yeah.
I was able to get to that place. And so one of the things, like you said, is self-care. You got to be kind to yourself.
Exactly. You got to be kind to
And so
yourself.
some
Yeah.
people ask me, some people say, Chris, you're so disciplined. You know, how are you able to keep a strict diet, or how are you able to keep your weight down? Because those people who knew me pre-now, they knew that I was a little bigger, right?
You look
And
good,
so,
girl.
thank you. And so they knew that I was, a bit thicker. And so they say, you're so determined. And determination is a part of it, but and I want people to understand this, what it really is my refusal to go back to that dark place.
Yeah.
My refusal to be back miserable.
Right.
I was in a place, it was so bad that I had to get myself together because I could not stomach being in that space anymore. So you said what happened? I got tired. You know how you hear people say, when you're sick and tired, you're sick and tired. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
But so I think something that's so vital to being sick and tired, there's a process that comes with that too, to get to the sick and tired.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's something that we need to talk about also, because one of the things that you said that you did, you had people that were praying for you, but you were praying for yourself. Even in the midst of depression, you had to say something, utter something to be able to come out, to activate faith, to activate communication.
But let me be honest,
with God.
Because, one of the things I hate about, when I watch interviews that, people who've been through things and, they don't always tell the real.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Come on.
And so I was so angry with God. There were many a days that I did not want to pray to God. And I had an attitude with God because I felt like, I know you hear me talking to you. Like, I know, I have asked you, can you help me not want to kill myself? I have been very specific. Can you help me to not be in a place where when I get on a plane, I don't wish for the plane to crash because I don't want to be here anymore. But I still have these feelings. You're not listening to me. I'm over you. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was not always, I prayed and God got me through.
No, but
that is not. But people will have you to believe.
No, let me tell you, it is not going to be. It's not going to. Let me tell you, I've been to a place of being down. You don't even feel like speaking encouraging words to yourself. You don't want to be bothered with people. You want to be alone. You want to sleep. You want to be in the dark. You want the curtain closed.
That's exactly how. I talk about that in my book, and it is so clear. I tried to really, when I was writing, paint a very vivid picture of what depression looks like for me.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are listening, if you decide to go and get the book, if you're suffering through whatever it is, that information is in there. And don't misunderstand. I think one of the things I really love about my book is that it speaks to so many things. It speaks to self-esteem. It speaks to relationships.
Yeah.
It speaks to depression. It speaks to overcoming. I have not met a person that has read the book that did not feel like it benefited them in some way.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Exactly.
And so, I encourage you, if you're struggling with any form of mental illness, to seek help, because we have this stigma in our community about mental illness and about therapy. And so,
and some people don't feel like that they can afford it. Especially when you're going through this and you might be low income, or it's like when this is not being taught in our communities, we don't feel like that we have the money to actually invest. We'll go and buy the gym shoes, we'll buy the cute dress, we'll go out with our friends, and sometimes we will substitute some things, maybe drugs or some type of drug, sex, or alcohol, or whatever the case that it is. But then we'll pay money into that, and I just want to tell somebody on today, all that money
can be going to what?
Can be going to that, but there's free resources.
Yeah, and I think that's a misconception too, is that you have to pay $150 or $175 an hour to go to therapy.
Right.
Find a therapist that accepts insurance. And if you are a working individual and you have health care, utilize your insurance. Pay your $20 copay or your $10 copay or whatever it is.
If you
don't have insurance.
If you don't have anything, get with a friend and pour out. Or somebody that who you can trust with this information.
I would say be careful with that, though, in terms of getting with, you have to be very selective.
I mean, you have to talk to someone who is going to pour something out to you that's going to uplift you. Now, we all know that you can't tell everybody your business because they'll go and run with it. They'll listen to, they're not writing a vision and make it plain. They're going to listen to what you got to say and run and tell somebody else, and it comes into gossip.
And when you're really sick, when you are at the point where you are depressed, you need more than just a listening ear. You need strategies. You need skills. You need resources. You know what I mean? So that's why I say, when you're in that space, talking to friends just won't get it. Now, it's nice to have friends to talk to, and it's absolutely nice to kind of have someone to be a listening ear, but you need a lot more intensity than that.
I mean, I would definitely say that you need a lot more intensity, but if there's an individual out there who was like me at 13 years old, about to transition into high school, I didn't know about even asking for resources. I was 13 years old in my mom's house. It was almost my birthday, and I went to my mom and I said, "Ma, I feel like committing suicide."
And I would say in those cases, for kids, who are in those spaces, talk to your school counselor. Talk to, most schools now are staffed with social workers.
Right.
Talk to your school social worker. It's a little different now than when we were in school.
Yeah.
We're not that old, but it's a little because mental health is such a big deal. There are more resources.
There's more resources.
There's Department of Behavioral Health has hotlines. There are different resources that, like you said, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know about. So if you're listening, DBH does have a hotline. Most of the schools now do have social workers. If they're not staffed in-house, they're contracted in. So they'll come in, a couple of times a week. So, go to your counselor, go to your social worker. If you go to church, go to someone in the church, so so that they can direct you and assist you in that way.
Basically, it's like, don't do it alone.
Yeah, you can't.
When I was younger, I had to go to my mom, and she didn't push out a Bible scripture or anything like that. She said, only thing that she said to me was that God doesn't require you to cop out. And one thing I asked my mom when I was being a grown woman, and Mom, when I was young, I said, how come you weren't scared? And she was just like, well, me and your auntie made a decision that we were going to trust God with you. And I think that that's very important, too, if we have any parents out there, is to make sure that you are, cultivating your child and the things that she's doing, and be a mom, but know how to come to that level of him or her, and so that they can open up and share things, You said your mom and you had a community of people that was praying. So
I had a
huge, but you had people who around you that you can trust.
I had a huge network of people, and some of them are probably watching now,
Right.
And it was so funny. At the time, I was teaching.
Yeah.
When I was in this space, and I had a principal. And he actually wrote the foreword in my book, Dr. Ian Roberts. And super supportive.
Right.
You know, super, super supportive to the point where literally I would have to leave work early, go to Baltimore because I worked in D.C., go to Baltimore. This was literally like every other week. Go to see the psychiatrist, come back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he didn't give me a hard time. Like, he
Yeah.
was extremely supportive, and you need that.
Yeah.
You know, because the last thing that I had the capacity to worry about was job security. And at
Right.
that point, I didn't care. You know, I would miss, I don't know how many days of work I missed at that time because I couldn't go. I wasn't well enough to go. You know, there was a time I was out for a couple of months. I had went to, there's a mental health facility. I always call it like a college for people with mental
Right.
illness. It's called Skyline Trail. It's in Atlanta. And so one of my really great girlfriends, we've been friends for years. We, you know, she looked up that place for me, and she found it for me because everybody knew I needed a more severe level of help at
Right.
that point.
Right.
So I went there, you know, got some help there. I was out of work for at least 2 months, and I'm probably being generous.
Right.
You know, and so it was a lot of, you know, like I said, processes that I went through to get to where I am now.
And that, I was just about to ask that, like, with all of that you had to journey through those trials and triumphs, because I can see the triumphs just even in there when we're going through. I just see, like, you made it. You made it. Like, in those moments where you didn't think that you was, and even in those moments when you thought God wasn't hearing, it was building you.
Yeah.
It was shaping you. And he didn't
Yeah.
or wasn't going to let you take your life.
Yeah.
But the feeling of it now, that you could be able to now push that out to somebody else and say, baby, you can make it. I struggle. I went through some hard things. And what you're speaking, you're saying that I wasn't going to live in shame. I wasn't going to live in embarrassment. And I'm going to be a voice for you so that you can be a voice for somebody else. So who, right now, before we begin to, you know, wrap up in just a few, who are you today? And what does Kristin do for herself today to keep herself uplifted and motivated and keep you being, you know, that amazing, with that amazing smile.
Oh, thank
and
you,
being
girl.
an amazing woman and an amazing author and entrepreneur?
That's a good question. One thing I do is I live unapologetically. And those that know me know that about me. I will get up and take a trip at the drop of a dime. I will go out and treat myself to an amazing dinner.
Yeah.
I just try to take care of myself. And I
Yes.
do those things. Some people who don't know my story, they say, oh, Chris, you're always doing this or you're always doing that. What they don't know and what they don't understand is that I gotta do that. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I was in a place for so long where I did not want to be here on this earth, that at this point in my life, I'm so thankful for my life. I'm so thankful that when I took those pills, God didn't say that was it. I'm so thankful that when I tried to jump out of the car on Route 5 coming down Branch Avenue, that my mother yanked me back into the car. I'm so thankful. So now I'm excited to be here.
I hear that song, I almost gave up. I was right at the edge of a breakthrough, but couldn't see.
Yep. That's you know, that's what it was for me.
Depression had me down.
Yep. So you know, I'm in a place where, you know, like I said, I'm going to live unapologetically, and I'm going to do what makes Kristin happy. I try to, you know, I've been doing, you know, my health and wellness and trying to make sure that I feel good, you know, inside. You know, sometimes we all fall short. So sometimes, you know, I fall off the bandwagon, but I always try to get back on, you know, so I eat right. I try to exercise as often as I can, you know, but I do those things because, again, I have to, for my own mental sanity, make sure that I'm healthy. Periodically, I'll still go to check in with my therapist just to say, hey, like, this is what's going on, you know. And you know, for y'all who are watching,
that's
do
so
that.
good. Do that.
Yeah, you have to kind of do, but find what works for you. You know, what works for me may not work for you.
I think that's so important because a lot of times when we're going through these tough relationships, come on, ladies, I know all of us go through, and if we have any men that's out here watching also, is that as soon as we come into a problem, we don't talk about it, we deal with it, or we settle. Oh, I can handle this. I can, and you can't.
Girl.
If you already know in the beginning that you can't handle this, you need to say, I'm not going to do it, or you need to go and talk about it so somebody can say, okay, this really isn't healthy. Because what I think depression is pretty much compound things over time.
That haven't been dealt with.
And all of a sudden, your body crash. It's only so much
you can take.
Only so much that you can take.
And let me say this, just because you've gone through something once doesn't mean that you're not going to go through it again.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, we're all works in progress. And so one of the things that I want people to walk away with from today is really understanding that you have to be kind to yourself.
Right.
You have to give yourself allowances.
Go ahead,
you
Lynn.
have to, recognize and understand that, you may fall off with something that you're working on doing, but the onus is on you to kind of get back on track and get back, motivated to become, again, your best self. And so I just don't want people to kind of be in a space where they feel down on themselves. And
that's what I wanted to talk to you about when you said it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel this. So in Panera Bread, back to that, in Panera Bread, talking to some young ladies, and I was like, you know what, this is what I do, this is what my book is about, but I want to let you know that, sometimes it's okay to be, and I know some people might not agree with me, but I feel that it's okay to feel jealous, it's okay to feel a little enviness, not to stay there, but to say, I believe that it gives you some type of inclination to say, you know what, I like what she has. The jealousy will come. It can come, but I think that it's a tip and a key to say, oh, I don't have to be jealous. It's just reminding me of something that I want, something that I desire, something that I've been believing God for. And just even with sadness, I'm sad because this is happening, to deal with it, to address the issue so that it doesn't become depression, to deal with the jealousy or the enviness so that it doesn't go into hate and bitterness, and ready to strangle somebody by their neck, to deal with the issue that's right here at the surface, and then to figure out what the root of that issue is.
I would like to challenge people to think about that maybe slightly different.
Okay.
Just in the sense that when you get to a place where you're comfortable with yourself and where you are truly good with you,
Exactly.
I can look at you and say, I like what she has.
Exactly.
Maybe I should work on, but it's not going to get to the place of jealousy.
Exactly.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But if you do, because we have to remember that everybody is at a different
human.
level.
Yeah.
We're human.
Yeah.
We're at a different level. So it's easier for a confident woman who now knows her worth to say, I like that about you, and can be able to compliment. But a woman who's at a place where she has yet to get to that place, that jealousy is going to come up.
Right.
So I wanted to encourage
you
her
deal with
how
that?
you deal with it. If it comes up, then to deal with it, deal with the sadness, deal with the jealousy, deal with the enviness, and say, it's just, that was something that I was believing. That was something that I want. And then to have the courage to say, how did you get there?
Yeah.
Then we begin to break that thing off.
Yeah.
Because for me, there's been so many things that happen, and sometimes it wasn't that voice like you are. It wasn't that person to say, it's okay. You're gonna make it. I had to figure it out. You had to figure it out. And get to the point and to say, enough is enough.
And I would talk to any of my friends that would listen, honey. Like I had a lot of friends, and it's too many to name, that at some point everybody played their role. And so I am like extremely beyond thankful. We went to the Canary Islands for my birthday in July. My birthday's in the summertime. I like to live.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
On.
I like experiences. I'm big on experiences because I had so many days where I had horrible experiences that, I live for good experiences.
Girl, I feel you over here. I don't know, you guys are on the other side of the camera, but if you can feel what this atmosphere feels like right now, Kristin, I believe that you are setting people free.
Well,
right
I appreciate
now.
that.
Kristin is telling you that you have to live.
You absolutely
have to enjoy
live.
life. And like my grandmother say, you can't accept no wooden nickels.
But listen, so we went to the Canaries, right?
Yeah.
And it was 13 of us.
Okay.
Myself included. And 13 of my closest, family and friends.
Yeah.
And we had a ball. And so we had this birthday dinner on the beach. And, I hope Elise is watching, my travel agent. I can't see if she's watching, but you know, she set up a beautiful dinner for us. And so we went on the beach and we sat and we went around the table and talked about, you know, different things that were close to our hearts. And one of the things that I expressed to them was that everybody played their role in my life and everybody held a very significant place. I mean, you know, 1 month I might be burning this person's ear off. And then the next month I might be burning these two people's ear off. And when I say I called on these people and, you know, they were there. And I know they were so tired of me. I mean, but you have to have those type of people, you know, in your life. So I just wanted to acknowledge those people because they really, really, really helped, you know, coax me along through a very difficult time. You know, people that have supported.
I'm glad they did because today, we wouldn't have this show today if you guys didn't pour into Kristin. And Kristin, I just want to say, I just want to thank you so much for being on. Let me just touch your hand right now. I just want to thank you so much for being on the Building the Best You show. I mean, because you are empowering people to empower themselves. You know, you are showing them that you can go through some things, but your past does not have to dictate your future.
It absolutely doesn't. And I'm just say one more thing, and I know we got to go. when you are, you know, ladies, like I said, take care of yourself. And when I'm at home, people think I'm just extra. I like my candles. You know what I mean? I make sure that I'm in an environment where I feel comfortable, where I feel relaxed, where I feel soothing, you know, because that's important. And so I go to get your pampering done, get you a massage if that's what you like to do, but be kind to yourself and be kind to your body.
So do you think that you would, I don't know if you have been in a relationship or that you would get in another relationship, or you right now you just embracing your singlehood?
Oh girl, you know I've been single for so long. Listen, and but you know, I'm a relationship girl. You know what I mean? Now I was absolutely in no place to be in nobody's relationship during that time, you know, and I respect that and I recognize that. And ladies, know your limits. But like I said, you're always going to be a work in progress. You know, everything that you learn from different relationships, you take from them, you do better the next one. You take from this one, you do better the next one. You know, until you're in a space where God has blessed you with your forever mate. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're always learning and growing as we go along. You know, the relationships that I've had since the one that I wrote about in the book, did they work out? No. But was I better in each one than I was in the last? Absolutely. And that's what it's about. You know what I mean? And again, put you first. And like I said, we fall short. You know, and I'm preaching to myself and I'm preaching to other women that I talk to. When I do my self-esteem building workshops and things like that, you got to make decisions that honor you. Do I always make decisions that honor Kristin? No, I don't. But do I always strive to make decisions that honor Kristin? And when I find myself not making decisions to honor Kristin, do I check myself? Absolutely. And do I have people that will check me? Absolutely. And so that's what it's about. You know, we get down on ourselves when we feel like we're falling behind or we're not doing what we're supposed to do. You say, okay, you know what, Chris, you're tripping. You know, you need to reevaluate this situation. This is not healthy for you. And you carry on.
You guys, I hope that you got that today on the Building the Best You show. Look, you got to take care of your mind, your body, and your soul so that you can stay in control, but to be restored, renewed, and revived each and every day to build the best you, to build the best you that you can be. And we both are here to say that that's something that we want for you. Rewind it once we go off the show on today. Share it with those, because somebody is suffering. Somebody is going through, and somebody needs healing. Somebody needs to be successful. All right? So that they can be free and chains can be broken. You broke some chains today, Kristin.
I hope so.
You did.
That's what God has me here for. I believe that. Purpose.
He said, I have a plan to prosper you, not to harm you, a plan to give you a hope and a future. That all along, God still had a hope and a future. But we can't blame it all on God, because he gives us the freedom to make our own decisions. And we know when we don't want to do anything. Don't accept them with the nickels.
And you know, something I learned through this process, you know, nothing good lasts forever, but nothing bad lasts forever. When you're in depression, you feel like you're going to be in that space forever. You don't see a way out. And so I always encourage people to remember, you know, even when you're in that space, excuse me, remember that you're not going to be in that space forever. Nothing is forever. So, you know, hold on to that, because those dark days, I had to hold on to that. I just sat in it in the moment, and I looked forward to the good days.
So how many years have you been in your greatness?
About 2.5 to 3. You know,
one thing that we talked about even over the phone was that it's still a process.
Absolutely.
It's still a process. Hey, it's still a process.
And I'm not ashamed of that, and neither should you be,
and
you know.
Okay, girl, please.
Yeah, whoever, you know, is looking, and, you know, you guys, you're always going to, life is a journey.
Yeah.
If we got everything right and fixed everything right now, then what will we have to live for, and what will we have to look forward to? You got to really, you know, accept the fact that once you've learned this lesson, you're going to move on to the next.
Yeah, but let's stop here, because we are passionate about this, and
we're going to go on forever.
And we want to see somebody successful and healed, because we know what it feels like to be in that dark place. But let me tell you, even in that dark place, you are still light. You are always light.
I believe that, girl.
And darkness, the Bible says that darkness cannot consume light. It couldn't consume. Girl, you have me preaching on here. We gonna go into a whole nother segment. No, but look, I want to thank those who have sponsored. I want to thank Healthy and Wealthy. I want to thank our moderator, which is Nicole. I want to thank Dreams Alive Production. I want to thank also D-Name Trucking. I want to thank even our ministry, New Embrace Ministries, who helped out on it. I want to thank all of you guys who are out there, and even my women chapters, daughter to daughter, because you know it's about building a sisterhood, a network, of outreach, and spiritual growth. And that's what we're doing on today. So you guys, I just leave all your comments below, questions and comments. We'll come back. We'll answer them. We didn't have time to answer them, you know, right now. We were just so passionate
in our conversation,
and making sure that we got that word out. But thank you, family, friends, new viewers. Make sure you go to IamSha'MecaLatai.com and subscribe to the blog, subscribe to the newsletter, so that you can stay on top of everything that we're doing. We're doing big things, honey. Okay, it's 2018, and I'm not playing, and you shouldn't either. It is time to be unstuck so that you can be unstoppable. See you guys.
Bye.